This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Welcome to the program. Real cool dude. I've sort of been following him online, and the CEO of drafters.com speaks very highly about him and what he knows and his knowledge in DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports. Please welcome Sal Vetri. Hey, Sal.
Hey, how's it going? I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no, of course, man. So you seem like a fairly young guy. How old are you?
I just recently turned 23 years old.
So, yeah, a baby, and I could say that because I'm double your age here. When did you go, wait a second, I love sports. I know my sports. I should be like my own GM, but I'm just going to make money on this because I'm so knowledgeable in it.
Yeah, so I recently graduated Penn State, a 5-year program over the summer, and it's probably about a year ago, last October, I just started a YouTube channel and just started really spitballing, and from there it's just, you learn a bunch of new stuff on how to get better at it, how to sharpen it up and make it more appealing. And about, 13, 14 months later now, about 16,000 subscribers in. And, yeah, it's a every single day process, so that definitely helps with it, getting content out daily. But something that I really love, and, yeah, you touched on it, just being able to find a way to connect with people and get a product out there. And it seems like a lot of people enjoy it, so it's a ton of fun right now.
Very good for you. Where is the YouTube channel for people to follow you and subscribe?
Yeah, it's just YouTube. It's just my name, Sal Vetri, and then it's also stripped down for people who prefer audio podcast versions onto a podcast. Same exact thing, just Sal Vetri Show.
Awesome. And don't I feel like a dick? I mispronounced your last name. I do apologize for that. Sal Vetri with us. So what's your go-to sport then, Sal?
Yeah, so I think it's personally for me, NBA is probably the one that I enjoy the most just from watching and also for the DFS side of it. But the NFL is just overall the biggest eyes on it, the most attention, appeal. So those two for sure. And then just personally, NBA is where I get sort of the most pleasure out of just watching and playing the game for DFS.
Awesome, dude. And let's talk some basketball then. So, here in Toronto, we're very sensitive. We're very sensitive individuals. We win the championship last year. We go out and we lose. Well, he decides to go back home, or I understand because it's freezing today. So it made a lot of sense, actually. Kawhi Leonard goes back to LA, to the Clippers, and people just sort of knocked the Raptors out of it. Me being one of them, by the way, and I know my basketball. I said, they don't stand a chance this year. Yet, some of the power rankings might not be showing this the way Toronto fans think they should be, back to the sensitive part. This is a great-ass team. Did this surprise you, these guys?
Yeah, you know what? Definitely surprised when you lose a huge caliber like Kawhi and you're expecting a drop-off right before the season starts. You get the huge deal for Siakam there. And, yeah, even battling through an injury for Lowry, who just came back in the last one, you would imagine that this wouldn't be a team that right now ranks fourth in overall plus-minus, just meaning that efficiency-wise, at the end of the year, if this held, they would be one of the top 5-10 teams in the league. So, yeah, I think just a lot of big stepping up. I mean, Ibaka goes out, Lowry goes out, and you just have role players like Anunoby and Powell stepping up and taking on places, Chris Bouchard, RHJ. It's similar to what you had last year, except, during the regular season, it seems like the same team. Kawhi took over in the playoffs. We'll just kind of see if Pascal can be that guy, maybe not anywhere near to the same type of ceiling as Kawhi, but if he's there enough and you get the role players doing their thing, this is definitely still definitely a top 10 team in the league.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do in the playoffs. They're playing a very good team, although the record doesn't say it so much, of the Houston Rockets tonight. And actually, ironically, today, downtown Toronto, I bumped into, I didn't say hi or anything, and I considered asking for a pick, but again, I'm an old guy, so I'm kind of past that. But I saw both James Harden and Russell Westbrook. I'm like, my goodness, these are big stars. Well, the Rockets, have they been a bit of a letdown?
Wow, that's actually a crazy story. So I think early in the season and first month or so, really now getting a little bit away from it, definitely the defense was a huge piece of it. But there were just parts of that defense that you could see coming if you looked at some of the statistics, weren't going to hold up. Teams are just shooting an outrageous rate against them from three that it's just not going to withstand. So the points they were giving up were going to come down. They have the scores. I mean, you see Harden dropping close to a career-high 60 the other night. He continues to do that. Westbrook kind of taking a back seat a little bit in the rebounding department. Something you didn't see on the Thunder was taking away Steven Adams' rebounds. Now he's letting Clint Capella, really the only thing he does over there is get rebounds, letting him do that, keep the harmony and chemistry there. But I think maybe an early season letdown, but they're coming around right now. You expect them at the end of the year with the talent that they have to be a top 5 team, and I think they're going to finish right around there. Right now they are 10th in just plus minus, and that's trending upwards.
And how much is LeBron James and the LA Lakers impressing you?
Oh, a ton. You keep seeing them rattling off wins. The only time that they really let you down was when the season opens, when they faced the Clippers, a team that, you would expect them to lose to probably about half of the time. So, yeah, what they're doing right now is fantastic. I was expecting at this point, Anthony Davis, it seems every day there's question marks around if he'll play or not. He said there was a quote that he's constantly in pain, but yeah, they're really, right now they're number one in win differential. They're just, I was expecting this to happen, but at this rate of just, not losing in 3 weeks now, yeah, they're really impressive. And they're a ton of fun to watch if people don't stay up late night to watch them. Anytime you can catch maybe an East Coast game over there in Toronto, it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, Sal, you're right. Sal Vetri is with us, Daily Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. He's got a great Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and, also doing stuff at drafters.com, who I'm a big fan of, and doing some work on the side with them where they got your free daily fantasy sports games, amongst others. And, I actually think for sure when it comes to the Lakers, I'm under the belief they're going right to the finals this year. LeBron's kind of seemed to kick it in that Superman type of gear that only he can do, really. And it'll be interesting to see. When it comes to daily fantasy sports, though, how does it? Everyone I feel like has their own kind of definition of daily fantasy sports. Believe it or not, what's your approach?
Yeah, so you're right. There's definitely different aspects, and really it depends on what your intentions and your own goals are while playing it. You might want to go in and you spend $1 in a contest tonight, and you build your lineup for. There's 4 NBA games on most of these sites late tonight, and maybe you just try and win like the 10K prize pool. It's a very outside, probably not going to win it more times than not, maybe not ever, but that's just your mindset. And there's other approaches, and some of the ones that I take are there's contests that you just play somebody heads up, head to head. It's a better outcome of your chances of winning if you put the work in. And then there's these contests called 3 maxes. You enter 3 lineups into a contest. You have a little more upside there. Those are usually the contests that I stick to. Some nights you'll see these contest fields where you can enter a maximum of 150 lineups, and you just have a great edge over people not being able to do that. So if there's a night, probably not tonight, some bigger slates where there's 10 games, just more options to get different, I'll usually enter in 150 lineups and really just try and take on the overall better chances of winning a contest. When it comes to the NBA, just trying to get, there's talent, or there's ways that you can go about it, trying to get as many really big players and really just size-wise centers and power forwards into your lineup. There's sneaky ways you can do it based on positionality. They usually lead to the most upside in points and ceiling points.
And so when it comes to that sort of adrenaline, that side of betting that you do, and what I'm getting at, that's the emotion, but how much knowledge, how much work? I mean, is this sort of a full-time gig for you?
Yeah, so the DFS side of it paired with the content, and the content's a big piece of it. That's the reason I got into it in the first. It's a full-time job for me right now, for sure. So it's a really good question. It's about, I would say, right now I'm spending with the NBA and the NFL both in the full swing of things for the next month until the NFL playoffs. Probably, it's a 7-day-a-week type of thing, and it's probably around 80 to 85 hours a week. And it sounds like a daunting number, but it's just a combination of just producing the content, researching for it, coming on shows like this. I do a couple other radio and just YouTube shows in the industry. So it all boils down to that. But at the end of the day, it's really just my hobby that I'm getting to do for a job. So it doesn't feel like that many hours of work. It just feels like I'm having a ton of fun doing it.
And is there ever fears of sort of accountability where you're kind of giving tips, you're giving ideas where you want people, there's disclaimers here, like, listen, there's an opportunity you can lose some money, so make sure you do your own due diligence?
Yeah, of course. And that's always something that in these YouTube videos or podcasts I'll point out. I don't think there's as much fear of accountability. Like, for my own credibility standpoints, I know the amount of work that I put into this. So when I'm putting the work out there on platforms like the podcast or YouTube and it's free, it's not as much fear as it is like, going into it that these sports are variant. There is just parts of it that you can't measure, and that's a big part of it too. So the measurables you try and show out there, give the information free to the public and see what they want to do with that. But at the end of the day, these sports are variant. Everything's you're not going to pick 100% on anything. Nobody will. Early on, I think I felt like that. Like, you have to get everything right. But now that it's been like a year, a little bit more settling in, it's just, if you give the right information, the proper information in hindsight, and try and take emotion out of it, that's the best that you can do, and just do it on a consistent and quality basis. Who
are some of the individuals that you sort of, I don't know if look up's the word, but follow and go, man, they've been doing this daily fantasy sports thing pretty well for a significant amount of time?
Yeah, so there's two sides of it. I would say a guy actually right from where you guys are in Toronto, his name is Pat Mayo. I'm not sure if you ever heard of him or ran into him down there. He does daily fantasy sports show, mainly through YouTube and podcast. He he brought me on. I actually reached out to him, believe it or not, a year ago, just in some like Twitter, Instagram DMs for advice. And now I've been doing his Monday show every week for the past couple of months. But he has a really nice studio set up down there on a daily basis, does the shows, and he just really knows and has a grasp on the content side of it. And then I do another show for a company called Awesemo.com. They have some really good tools over there. And what the guy does over there, he's the number one player in the world, making millions of dollars a year playing this stuff. And in terms of like the game theory of it, understanding data, how to leverage that, he's probably the guy the whole industry might be looking up to, but definitely as somebody who's a year into this looking up to and just kind of trying to study what he's doing.
So, okay, that's interesting. You bring up statistics and analytics. There's so much of that now that we see when it comes to A, the real leagues themselves, and then B, kind of these daily fantasy sports individuals who play like yourself. Is there, like, I mean, has that been proven as a science to actually have better odds to win? Yeah,
so, I mean, in terms of using this data and statistics to just look at DFS stuff, you can, and I have them in front of me right now for like tonight's games, you can just make predictions based on historical data, the matchups. You can weight things differently, and you just get a projection on the night. And it's not going to be exact. It'll be, if they play like 1,000 times, more times than not, this player will score this many points. And you can just leverage that against maybe opponents that don't have that type of information. So when it comes to DFS, there's a lot of it that is surely luck if you're playing in huge tournaments. But if you have projection systems and you have a better grasp on what's happening on a day in and day out basis, you'll have a leverage. And then when it comes to the leagues, I definitely think there is. It can be overstated. So I definitely find analytics and just situational game scripts, whatever it might be, to be some of the biggest leverage that coaches can have. You see it this year with the Ravens starting towards the end of last year. John Harbaugh might have saved his job and now leading a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. And he is he is a coach that uses it the most in the league. But then you also have coaches that they try and go on gut and feel. And I think it's kind of the new wave still in the league. I think it'll slowly take over more, but there's surely human reasoning and human emotions that have to be poured into it. It can't just be 100% analytics. There has to be context added to it.
And you know, back to the sort of the emotional side of things, Sal Vetri, is people are nuts about this stuff, right? I mean, this is their beyond. It's not like it's a livelihood necessarily for everyone, but people really take their fantasy sports teams and their picks very seriously. Can you speak to that side of it? The adrenaline, the passion, the belief that, hey, I can do this better than anybody else.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's taking on just a league of its own right now in terms of people caring more about fantasy teams than their own. When I got into it a while ago, 10 years ago, getting into my first NFL just full season fantasy football league, and I was just hooked. There's just something about it in terms of, you're putting in the work. Like, you manage a team if it's season long. If it's a daily basis, you're putting in a ton of work. And if there is financial rewards or just bragging rights rewards at the end of it, it does feel close. You're more personally attached to it because it just feels like you're more involved. So, yeah, it's been taking off for the last 10 years. The legalization, at least in America, of just sports gambling slowly being rolled out by each and every state right now is just going to make this thing take off even more when it comes to the market size of it growing and growing for smaller companies, individuals like myself, actually having sustainability in a job in the space.
Very cool. Well put. I mean, you're really well-spoken dude for sure, and doing it very well. And the YouTube channel is great. I watched some of the videos, and Sal Vetri, I have the pleasure of doing some stuff with drafters.com. And, the one thing I like about it is it also gives an opportunity for average Joes or average Jills who don't necessarily have a ton of the time, can't go through all the stats, and just do these quick snake 'em games or rank 'em games. And that's kind of a fun angle at daily fantasy sports too, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, I've been working with drafters now. One of the first really people that I got in touch with in the industry a year and a half ago. Great guys over there. Again, echo the sentiment that they have it set up in a system where it is very fun and it's very easy to grasp, but it's not going to be the same as if you're playing on some of the other sites, DraftKings, these other sites where it's fun as well, but there's also a lot of people in it that do it professionally, whereas sites on drafters, it's so much harder because it's not salary cap based. You don't have to allocate a certain amount of salary in this game to players. You just go in and you're drafting in there and you take the knowledge that you have and which most people have, and it makes it a little bit more of a level playing field. So, yeah, I usually play I've been playing on drafters now since probably a year and a half ago.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I like, if a player gets hurt, they kind of have the automatic substitution thing in there. And that way you don't have to necessarily pay as much attention to it if you don't have that amount of time. But, in my case, I just bet a few bucks here and there. And I usually lose, but it's not like I'm very careful about what I bet. And that's one thing I always tell people, be very careful what you bet. But the free games, and you can practice and have some fun there. Hey, Sal, listen, I really enjoyed this talk, and I hope we can continue it down the road and have you on from time to time. And let's figure out who's hot, who's not, who's injured, who's not, and statistically speaking, maybe who are our best odds. So I'd love to, if you wouldn't mind, getting you on every couple of weeks here.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just reach out whenever you'd like, and I'm definitely had a good time on the show. Again, appreciate you having me on, and would be without a doubt down to do that in the future.
Thanks, brother. Make sure you go and check out Sal Vetri on his YouTube channel and Sal Vetri DFS on Twitter. Appreciate your time. Good luck tonight, man.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Go Raps. Go Raps.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.